Hello and welcome to the third part of the Starter's Guide webinar series for European pilots. Today's webinar is about flight planning for visual flights. The next seminars will be held in English on March 19th and in German on March 21st and will include weather information, hazard warnings, and avionics connectivity. On April 9th and 11th, new functions will be presented and there will be a summary of the previous webinars. All webinars are recorded and will be available at foreflight.com/webinars. As always, it's worth listening until the end. A 1-year license for ForeFlight Performance Plus with European regional coverage will be raffled off among all participants in the webinar. In today's webinar, we'll start by taking another look at the map view settings for visual flights. It continues with add-on charts and additional information overlays. This was followed by the route planning itself and the introduction of useful tools that simplify route planning. The third part is about the navlog, the briefing pack, and flight plan management. Questions can be asked via the message panel and will be answered during the presentation. If any question is not answered, please send it again to team@foreflight.com and my colleagues will take care of answering. If you run into technical problems, try refreshing the webinar. As already said, the webinar will be recorded and later published on foreflight.com/webinars. But now let's get started. The map viewer is essential for planning visual flights. In order to make the settings comprehensive step by step, all cards or art charts are switched off here. The aeronautical map layer is selected in the map view. It contains anything you need for flying. The navigation data, terrain data, obstacle data are provided by Jeppesen. You can use the map switch settings to switch the map theme to light and the terrain to shaded. Here you can also switch on peaks, passes, and cable lines. By the way, the iPad has a function to automatically switch between day and night view. In the ForeFlight app settings, you can select if you want to have the automatic setting or fixed light or dark map design. In cultural elements, you can have a look which map elements should be shown on the aeronautical map layer. So that list will be extended in future. You see a lot of spaces here is still available, and we will add more map elements later. Under airports, you not only have the option to select the airports you want to display, you can also filter the airports by the minimum runway length. For example, set it to 1,500 feet or 457 meters. All airports with shorter runways will not displayed on the map. Typically, I personally set that on none because every airport helps. Under airways and waypoints, you can switch off the organized tracks if you are not frequently flying across the Atlantic. Here you can also select if you want to have the low or high altitude airways, if you want to see airways, nav aids, waypoints independent from the quick filter. Place labels are names of locations. And the quick filter is visible on the left side. That's an element of the aeronautical map layer, so that you can quickly switch map elements on or off for decluttering the map. When centered around your current position by tapping on the crosshair icon in the top right corner of the screen, you can adjust how you want to have the map displayed: north up or track up, and track up in two flavors: track up centered with your own position in the center of the map, or track up forward with your own position in the lower third of the map. Map overlays are available to display additional information around your aircraft. You can, for example, display extended center lines for airfields in your route. You can show on-ship distance rings based on distance and time. You can switch on the glide advisor, which is using your aircraft settings for best glide speed and glide ratio. And based on the wind and terrain information, dynamic area is marked around your aircraft where you can land in case of an engine failure. Track vector shows your flight direction, and you can set the vector also based on time and distance. Breadcrumbs are showing your currently flown track. And the map legend is an additional information when showing additional overlays, map overlays. Then you can see quickly what will the colors mean in these overlays. Beside the aeronautical map layer, we have a number of add-on charts, especially for visual flying, and you can switch them off. With the European region, the Europe VFR map layer is coming, and that contains the freely available ICAO maps for Iceland, Faroe Island, Denmark, Netherlands, France, Spain, Italy, and Switzerland. So we are aware that there are also free charts available for other countries, but for bringing them into the Europe VFR layer, we need to have an agreement with the authority that we are allowed to put them into that map layer. So that is an ongoing process, and probably you will see here an extension in future. We have, on that reason, we have a number of optional add-on charts you can purchase with your ForeFlight subscription. One of the providers is, for example, the German DFS. And here you can see you have a good coverage of many parts of Europe, but not all. So you have no coverage for the UK and Ireland, for the Nordics or Southeastern Europe. Another provider is Rogers Data. With Rogers Data, you have also a very good coverage, including Sweden, for example, or the UK, or the Azores, Canarian Islands. Air Million is another provider who provides a 1-to-1 million VFR map for many parts of Europe. And for other countries, we have a lot of national providers like NATS for the UK or Avinor for Norway. We have for Sweden and Finland add-on charts. So depending on the region where you're flying, we have the option to add additional charts. Okay, beside the optional maps, we have two additional map layers. One is a street view layer, which is displaying the OpenStreetMap on as an overlay to the aeronautical map layer that provides a number of good details on the map, but similar to the aerial view, the street view is an online map. That means street view and aerial view are not permanently downloaded on your iPad. So when flying, and of course you are changing the map coverage you are displaying, so additional data are loaded. So that costs you battery power, and of course, depending on your mobile phone data contract, you have to load a lot of data. So I think it's a good choice to use Street View or Area View for flight planning, but switch them off during the flight. We continue to work with the aeronautical map layer. On the left side, you see the quick filter where you can quickly switch map details on or off. Yeah. Okay, that leads us to airspaces. Europe is full with airspaces depending on the region we are flying, and the number of airspaces can be confusing. So we implemented some tools to declutter the map. So I switch here the airfields on and switch over to the map settings, select the airspace settings. Here you have different options like automatic highlighting of airspaces. That means all airspaces not included in your current route planning are dimmed, very helpful. Or you can filter airspaces by their altitude. You put in a flight level or an altitude, and all airspaces above that altitude or flight level are switched off. You have additional options for switching airspaces off who are activated by NOTAMs. Please make sure in that case that you have the NOTAM map overlay switched on. As soon you have any airspace filters activated, you will see the blue banner in the lower right corner of the screen, and tapping on that banner, you can adjust these filters very quickly. Now we are coming to weather overlays. ForeFlight provides a number of weather overlays, and we will dive deeper into that area in the next webinar. But I want to show you a few of them. So you have the radar coverage, that is the radar picture downloaded over the internet. Areas without data coverage are marked as radar not available. So if you don't see any radar echoes in South Italy, that doesn't mean that there isn't any weather. So it's only the point that here is no radar station available to collect the data. So on that reason, you select the enhanced satellite weather layer, and here you can see the complete picture. The enhanced satellite picture is a combined picture out of infrared and visible light data and shows the temperature of the tops. Only to go first over the next options, there is an icing overlay available for Pro Plus plans or higher. With an icing overlay, you can select an altitude, and you can, with a time slider, you can go over the next 24 hours and see how the icing is moving in that specific altitude over the time. We have some more information overlays available. So one already mentioned is a NOTAM map overlay. The NOTAM map overlay shows all active NOTAMs with geographic informations. So if you tap in an area like here around Stendal, you can see that here is an exercise scheduled. So training areas activated by NOTAMs are marked in orange, and as well as restricted areas 2 hours before their activation time. From the point of activation, they are marked as red. You have also some areas in gray. These are, for example, obstacles, parachute areas, or more. Another overlay that comes to weather again is a general aviation weather forecast, which is available as an area forecast in Germany and route air forecast in Austria, Switzerland, and Croatia and Slovenia. And we have fuel map overlays for AFGAS and Jet A1. We have here switched on the AFGAS map overlay, and what you could do here, you can tap on a number, you can see the details of the airfield, the reported prices, and when you tap to the details, you can add, confirm, or report price changes. And you see also here, for example, in that airfield, that fuel is only available for club members. So you have also additional information here. So now let's start building a route. The easiest way to build a route is tap on your departure airfield. The details are displayed in a sidebar menu like frequencies, runway information, procedures, weather, anything else. And of course, you can go there directly from your current position by selecting Direct To. So we want to build a route, and we select Add to Route. Automatically, that airfield is highlighted. If you have extended center lines activated, you can see the extended center lines. Then you can tap anywhere else on the map where you want to have a next waypoint. You can select the location by tapping on the coordinates on top of the list on the right side. Or you can also select from airports, nav aids, waypoints, or all of these map elements. And they are sorted in increasing distance from the place where you have tapped on the map. And here we select EMDIT as a waypoint, which is 2.2 miles north of that place. Here EMDIT is added to the route. Another way to add waypoints is use the search line. You can see a number of examples below the search line. You can put in coordinates, addresses, locations. We now are looking for an island. It's Herrenchiemsee. It's in Bavaria. And as you can see on the places, you find that place. And after selecting that place, the place is marked on the map. You see the information on the right side, and we add that place to the route. Select the destination, here St. Johann in Tyrol, and add to the route, and the route is ready. Another method to add waypoints to a route is rubber banding. Grab the route line, move it close to the waypoint, and add the waypoint. You can do it frequently. I always suggest using IFR waypoints also for VFR flights, because ATC know these waypoints. If you want to add your own waypoint to the route, move the route line, save that place, as a name. Here in that case, I select waypoint 1. Automatically, the user waypoint layer is enabled, and now you can add that waypoint to the route. The user waypoint is listed in the list on the right. The flight planning window shows now the complete route from departure to destination using user waypoints, IFR waypoints. Here it's very important that when adding user waypoints and so places like Herrenchiemsee, you can't do it in the FPL window directly. You have to do it on the map. The navlog shows, or the dynamic navlog shows all the waypoints with the totals and the per leg numbers. During the flight, you will see, based on your ground speed, the remaining time and distance and the estimated time of arrival at waypoints. Customers with a Pro Plus plan or higher have the option to use the profile view. Initially here 8,000 feet is selected because that's based on the aircraft performance profile, provides most economic flight to the destination, and when adding more legs, that is the altitude of the first leg. So we reduce the altitude for the first leg to 3,500 feet and add an altitude change at Herrenchiemsee, because you can see on the right we would in 3,500 feet come in conflict with terrain. Now you have the option to put in an altitude change and select if you want to start the altitude change at that waypoint or cross the waypoint already in the changed altitude. So I put in 16,500 feet and the change should start at Herrenchiemsee. That's what we can see here. If you change that to cross Herrenchiemsee already in 6,500 feet, the route will be changed in that way. We had another altitude change at Amdit, and the route, the profile is ready. Now you can see on the right side that there are still numbers of conflicts with terrain, and we check what the profile corridor settings are. Tap on the gear icon. You can see the corridor in large gray on the bottom of the screen. For every leg, you can see the highest obstacle and highest terrain. And what we are doing, we reduce the corridor width from 8 nautical miles to 1 nautical mile, and as you can see the effect in the profile view, now we have a much more narrow route, and the conflict with altitude and with terrain is not that hard. That leads us to helpful tools for route planning, and as well for Pro Plans and above available is a hazard advisor. The hazard advisor exists in ForeFlight already since many years, and in the beginning was only available during the flight. Now you can use the hazard advisor also for flight planning by selecting your preferred altitude on the right side. And in the legend on the bottom of the screen, you can see what the colors are meaning. So based on the route altitude of 5,000 feet, you can see that all terrain below with less than 1,000 feet distance vertically from your altitude is marked in yellow. Less than 100 feet is marked as red, and here you can also see the red 5,013 feet MSL in the center of the screen, which is the highest obstacle or highest terrain in that case on the leg to the visual reporting point Griesenau. The hazard settings are also available in the legend. Tap on the gear icon and you can adjust the hazard settings. For example, change the hazard altitudes to lower numbers, which makes sense when you are frequently flying in high terrain or operate in helicopter, for example. Yeah, you can see if you change it to helicopter normal, the conflict areas are much lower. This is again the 5,013 MSL, the highest terrain on that leg. The next helpful tool is a pack feature when planning a flight. What you can do is download information from the internet and store it in temporary storage on your iPad, so that you have that information available during the flight without internet connectivity. It's recommended to update the pack before you take off, so as close as possible to the departure time. That leads us to the next point, briefing and navlog. We send our planned route to flights, which is a form view of flight planning. And on top of the screen, you can see navlog and briefing. We are not talking about the other options because navlog and briefing is available for all ForeFlight users. This is a default, a standard navlog showing your route, showing your altitude changes, showing your the wind impact, the speeds, the times, the distances. And as you can see, the VFR waypoints are translated into coordinates. We are aware that there are feature requests to put in the VFR user waypoint or VFR waypoint names to the navlog. And yeah, if you have additional comments or requests, please send it to team@foreflight.com. ForeFlight provides separate files for the navlog, the briefing package, mass and balance, or takeoff landing performance calculation where applicable. And the briefing package contains or starts with a vertical cross-section chart, which has the information of icing, temperature, wind over the route, followed by a top view. Data are provided by NCAP. So we have different weather providers. All that will be covered in the next webinar. You have a sigma chart, meter and TAF information, the terminal area forecast for departure destination airport or close by airfields. You have the NOTAMs, and important NOTAMs or critical things, keywords are marked in red. So if something is closed, not available, prohibited or so, you can see it as red marked letters, and you can find critical NOTAMs pretty fast. After creating your navlog briefing package, you can share the flight with companion pilots. Finally, you will send them a link via email, and they can open the link in their ForeFlight mobile app and can import the flight. Here you can check the route line again, and if everything is okay, you proceed to fire. When proceeding to file, you can create an ICAO flight plan form by tapping on the Send To button. And you can print it, you can save it to files on your iPad, you can save it to ForeFlight's documents. Here, in that case, I will select Save it to Flights files, which is an option which is only available to Performance Plus plans. And here the ICAO flight plan form is added to the flight information. And here you can see all the relevant information for the flight. As you can see, the data sent to ATC are the coordinates of the waypoints. Again, ATC is aware of IFR waypoints, probably of visual reporting points, but not every user waypoint. So it's highly recommended when flying, especially international flight plans, use IFR waypoints also for VFR plans. After rechecking all entries, here in that example, it's a VFR flight plan, general aviation with a specific aircraft. You can file the plan, get an additional notice, and after filing the plan, you get an in-app confirmation, and the Proceed to File button is changing into a Cancel and an Amend button. You also get an email notification about the filed plan. Amending flight plans, VFR flight plans, is a little bit tricky in Europe because national ATC is handling it differently in different countries. So in some cases, you have to call ATC to change the flight plan, or in that case, simply cancel and file a new flight plan. You can see here that flight plan is filed with departure time 7:15. Now we want to change the departure time. You go to the time, change it to 9:15 Zulu, and tap on Amend. You will be asked, do you want to copy the changes? Yes. Now new departure time is 9:50 Zulu. We file the changes and amend the plan. You get a message from ForeFlight via email regarding the flight plan filing, and we will show a little bit later how the message looks like. And you get another message that in the AFTN network, the flight plan has been changed. That is a notification. It's stating that for VFR flights, it's recommended to contact ATC 1 day before departure and to ensure that the flight plan has been received and processed by the national ATC. That differs between countries. You can find more information on our website about specific countries. That is an amended message. It's like IFR flight plans. You get a changed flight plan and the weather information. Canceling is easy. Tap on Cancel. Do you want to cancel the flight plan? Yes, and the flight plan is cancelled. In today's webinar, we have talked about planning visual flights by setting the right map view settings. We have talked about map overlays, how you can plan a route, which helpful tools are available, and how you can file and change flight plans. If you have not yet tried ForeFlight Mobile, you can register for a free trial under foreflight.com/30day Europe. On the same webpage, you can learn about the current and previous releases under foreflight.com/releases. You can register for upcoming webinars or watch recorded webinars under foreflight.com/webinars. And in any case, you can contact our support team via team@foreflight.com. Now let's answer some questions asked during the webinar. Yeah, and again, first, thank you for staying in the webinar that time. So we had a number of very good questions. So one question, can we filter out airspaces below a certain altitude? Is it possible to use altitude filter also for NOTAM areas? And so a lot more around airspace decluttering. So yeah, one thing, yeah, if possible, please join the webinar in April before Aero. We will provide in that webinar outlook to coming features, and probably some of them are answering that question. So at the moment, airspace filtering is only for airspaces above a specific altitude, not for below a specific altitude. And it's also for class Delta Charlie Alpha airspaces, and not for NOTAM areas. Pardon. Okay, but yeah, in case you have these kind of questions, requests, please send an email to team@foreflight.com. And also, if it takes some time, and as you write here, I already asked that so many times. So the complete ecosystem of ForeFlight is very complex, and some features need a lot of work in the background before we can implement your requested features. Don't hesitate to ask again. We are listening. We are open to you, and we try do our best to implement all of your feature requests. So one of these request is also about MOGAS map overlay. So we have recently integrated MOGAS fuel prices. And now with implementing MOGAS, or in the US, unleaded fuel into the price structure, now we can start with work to integrate an yeah, map overlay for these kind of fuels. So it's a process, and as you know, ForeFlight is updating the app every month. Every month you get new features, and once you will get also the requested features. Another question, when I send a route from the map view to the flight page, how does ForeFlight decide IFR or VFR flight rules? So usually we are taking the first leg altitude information if it's a VFR altitude, typically, and you have VFR waypoints in that route string. The app is recognizing that it's probably a VFR flight, and the app is taking it over as a VFR flight. Otherwise, you have to change it manually from IFR to VFR. So a flight plan. So that is an question. So Eurocontrol has canceled the feature to activate and close flight plans remotely. So first, that feature was not available in all European countries, only in some for a time, and so recently Eurocontrol has canceled the option completely. So that was one of the reasons we haven't yet integrated opening and or activating and closing flight plans in ForeFlight. As soon Eurocontrol is changing that, and hopefully once offering activating and closing flight plans remotely, then we will have that feature. Um, customers using ForeFlight in the US are aware that ForeFlight as an application is able to activate and close flight plans, but the provider, in that case, Eurocontrol, has to provide the capability. Um, Related to changes in the estimated time of departure, when you request to change it, that is going directly to Eurocontrol, and if I get a green mark, means it was accepted. So it depends. It depends how far uh, before the estimated time of departure you are doing the change. Typically, up to 6 days in advance, we are holding the flight plan in our system. We are cross-checking with Eurocontrol if there are any issues with the flight plan. And the plan is going into the Eurocontrol system 48 hours before departure. That it's slightly different for VFR flight plans there because handling of VFR flight plans is done differently in the national ATCs. So, but our system is covering as much of these different behaviors, and if you get in case of an IFR flight plan, if you get an accept, so then Eurocontrol accepts the flight plan, you can be sure that you can fly. In case of an VFR flight plan, so that means we haven't heard any negative, so that the flight plan was rejected. Um, Pardon. So, if the flight plan is rejected, what could happen? So then you get a negative answer. Otherwise, you can be sure that the flight plan is in the system. Are you planning to add the option to search for airspaces? Yeah, so that's a feature request of myself as well. Could you please write in a feature request to team@foreflight.com so to add one request more to the queue. So I hope once a day we will have the option to search for specific airspaces, especially when it comes to restricted areas. Yeah, so that's would be very helpful. Some AirNav waypoints are not shown. Keith, could you please show my iPad um, so that I can demonstrate what's up here? So in that case, you see I have on in the quick filter here, I have the um, waypoints switched off, or now it's switched on. And what we have here are all IFR waypoints en route waypoints, but we don't show typically all procedure waypoints. So as you know, Munich is an area with a lot of waypoints and procedures, and you can see that they're here in the list. Around that point I marked on the map, there are a lot of procedure waypoints. They are on the list. You can select them, yeah, and then they are added to the route line. But to declutter the map, they are not always shown. Only when you have activated and procedure to that airfield, which contains that specific waypoint. I hope that answers the question. Okay. Okay. Thank you for the positive feedback. IFR Road Finder for lower altitudes has improved significantly for the last few years. So I will provide that feedback to our team. Thank you. So yeah, CTOT management. So there are a lot of IFR related questions. around calculated takeoff time, which is a nightmare here, especially when flying in Central Europe. And so we have so the calculate so if you plan your flight um, a, a good time in front of the planned flight. So then it's the Eurocontrol system is taking that plan into consideration and probably will get a calculated takeoff time as close as possible to your planned departure time. As closer you you plan your IFR flight to the real estimated time of departure, as more critical is it to get a good calculated takeoff time. Usually, you get at first the calculated takeoff time 2 or 3 hours um, after the planned departure, and then in the next time it's improving in most cases. And so we have currently not the option to freeze the change, so say stop. So I know that there is the stop option in the message you get, but at least for me, it was impossible to send the stop back to the system. So yeah, please drop an email to team@foreflight.com that we can take it also in the list. Yeah. And the next thing is when changing the estimated time of departure. As long you're moving your estimated time of departure backwards, you keep your place in the CTOT queue, and the system is aware of that. When you try to move your flight forward, then Eurocontrol is canceling your original flight plan and issuing a new one. But that new plan gets a new place in the CTOT queue, and that could happen that your new calculated takeoff time is behind your original. Yeah, so be careful with bringing flight plans forward. So the Eurocontrol system is, yeah, many years old and at the moment not really ready to take these kind of requests, but it can do many other things. Um, when I see the borders of between two countries, the airspace is confusing on the ForeFlight map. So yeah, so yeah, here I have to ask which countries, which specific part you need. Probably you have in the map the Euro VFR layer, and then you have on one part you have an free VFR map, probably from France here, and Germany has only optional or ICAO charts for purchase. In that case, you have to purchase a DFS charts or use the aeronautical map layer. So, okay. Last question. Do you plan to integrate or overlay more detailed meteor services, for example, like windy.com? So one thing is that in the map layer, we have, for example, um, this kind of information. We have that wind and speed, but that layer is only available to Performance Plus customers. Otherwise, please listen to our webinar in 2 weeks on March 19th. Then we are talking especially about weather and weather overlays and all the weather information you can get. So yeah, so that's the invitation for the next webinar. Thank you again for attending. and have all a great evening. And hopefully my voice is becoming better next time.